But that's going to happen. You did all the work. Somebody else is going to swipe all your food. It'll take a couple of years before the marauders and everything like that have settled down. But who comes back? How does civilization recover? Does the same government that got us in this, whoever survived from that government, do they come in and go, gee, now we're going to be in charge and we're going to put all this back together? That's not going to do any good.
And good afternoon, everyone. Things are becoming so timely with the information flowing at lightning speed. The changes are so vast that things that normally would have taken 6 months or a year are happening within a week. It's even difficult to keep up with what's happening, how fast new laws, new everything is moving. From the food shortages, one day there's enough, next day it's in complete shortage and run out of a country. So the way it's moving, you're always playing catch up right now with the information flow. So as we move, we're going to move back to a pioneering lifestyle where you're going to be required to take responsibility for yourselves, your security, fire, so many things. So I'm here with Ken today, Pinball Preparedness. You can find his feed right over at prepper.com, Pinball Preparedness. Now we live in the same neck of the woods, if you will. The inbound that we can see broadcast across the way. Now, the people that pretend they're running things are now saying that there'll be nothing for Christmas, stock up now. There's going to be shortages everywhere. So where does that leave you and I? Hopefully we can get some good information today. So Ken, thank you for joining me because I'm really interested. I see a bunch of your videos on YouTube too. And it's the time that we really take action, compare information, and maybe there'll be an idea or two that somebody that hasn't heard or listened to us before will come out and say, hey, thanks for bringing that. I didn't think about that, but it could save their life. Like what kind of timeline duration do you think almost all the chaos would kind of just shake itself out of the rug before things will be back to stability, where if you had your community, you could plant and harvest unmolested because the marauders would be gone, taken care of. Society would have re-nestled itself back down into some sort of normalcy. You're looking at 6 months, a year, 2 years out for something like that to return. And I hate this word normal because they tricked everybody with that one. But in terms of something where it's not, your safety is not such an issue and things have stabilized.
Well, and again, personal opinion here, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with grand solar minimal. The weather is going to be in control and the world goes into complete turmoil. We are going into winter. And if all of a sudden there is no power, like there was stories yesterday that Austria is now doing rolling blackouts because of power. You start getting into a lot of these places where there's no heat and then there's no food, you're going to have a mass die-off. And, that'll happen within the first month or so, starvation, but then you're going to have all the people that freeze to death. I mean, even where you and I are, it gets cold. And, so imagine being in Minnesota, North Dakota, New England, wherever it would be, and you have no heat. People are going to freeze to death. So that's going to shorten everything there. But then you get the second wave is those that survive it, and the winter, they're going to be looking for something next spring, next summer as things get going. And as you try to plant, how many people are going to try to steal something from your garden? I mean, we already hear stories from people. I've heard stories from people now down south that, they've got pear trees with pears on them and they come out one day and all the pears are picked. Somebody just completely cleaned out, whether these are people coming across the border, who knows? But that's going to happen. You did all the work. Somebody else is going to swipe all your food. It'll take a couple of years before the marauders and everything like that have settled down. But who comes back? How does civilization recover? Does the same government that got us in this, whoever survived from that government, do they come in and go, gee, now we're going to be in charge and we're going to put all this back together? That's not going to do any good. Now you think we have a totalitarian government now. Imagine what the government would be like after any sort of SHTF. You think martial law is bad? That would the government having helicopters and fuel. That's just going to make something very, very, very difficult. But yeah, I mean, a couple of years easy, and who knows how we come out the other side.
Yeah, and endless stockpiles of food. You see all these shortages all over the place. Not right now, but years prior, 2018, 19, there was a pea shortage one time. There was an ammo shortage. Like, you started to see something had gone downstairs, and the amount of containers that disappeared off the face of the planet, they were packed full and then put elsewhere. So that whole container shortage thing was just a way to explain away that, yeah, all the containers are being packed with continuity of government supplies and they're being put elsewhere. So that's why we need the containers. We actually need to use them now. Thanks for building them all for us. In 2008-9, great financial crisis. If anybody was around that time that remembers the 8 and 9 super run up in oil prices to like $147 a barrel. Silver crept up toward 50, and food was going insane as well. $5 gasoline. Now, if you don't remember that, you're young. But if you do remember that, at the same time, Thailand was having a problem with people coming in the middle of the night and harvesting the rice with mechanical harvesters. So what do they have to do? Station army troops in the fields all around during harvest season to prevent that same exact thing from happening. Yeah, pulling a few fruit off a tree is one thing, but going in with mechanical harvesters and cleaning out 5-6 acres of rice in an evening, that's something quite different. But you could imagine the same might be true with corn. I mean, there's a lot of farm equipment around. If you know how to run it and you had a crew with you, you could definitely take a few swipes up and down some fields, or just even go around in the middle and make a giant circle out there. And then, nobody would see, as long as you're running with the lights off. And if you had night vision equipment, you could go harvest most of a field. Nobody even see you from any side, because you'd be looking at the outside of the fields. And if you just plunked yourself in the middle, you could clean that out there and run away with it. So I anticipate seeing a lot of repeats of theft of food, warehouses being raided, just through history too. A quick FYI, in the 1600s, this is around 1650, 1655, that era of those 5 years, British soldiers, the most dangerous post was accompanying the food supply from the field back to the cities. They were attacked 100% of the time. You got to realize, the British military at that time, they were very well equipped, like state of the art. But these guys on the sides of the roads were coming at them with pitchforks, rocks, these kind of things. Attacked every single time the shipments were leaving, because they were stealing the food from the fields. So the people realized, we're gonna starve out here anyway, so we might as well try to get our food back, take it back. So how many repeats in history will we see this time with stolen food and food value increasing to the point it will be a life or death situation?
I mean, bring that down to a smaller scale. Imagine, this is very, very, very possible. Imagine having to post a guard on your garden every night, and then imagine being that guard. And if you think about this, imagine having to defend that garden. Like you said, the first time you pull the trigger, put that in your head and go, I just pulled the trigger and put that guy down over a tomato. That, like you said, that's not something that you do on Tuesday and you forget about on Thursday. That sticks with you forever. It will change who you are. I mean, majority of the people in this country have never seen a gunshot wound.
Yeah, getting some EMT skills, because every volunteer fire department needs people out there right now. And they're offering free training and even stop the bleed courses and things on how to use tourniquets and stop major injuries from bleeding, at least until you can get to better care. That's all free in your community. You just have to seek it out. And the people are more than willing to train you out, and you're going to get some life-saving skills at the same time. But going back to the garden thing, like, how good is our camouflage skill going to become? Right now, leaving the garden out in the front, and in the back, you drive up the driveway and you can see it on both sides. But in the future, that's probably going to be ringed by trees, and you're going to be hiding it as far back as you can with sunlight coming in, bouncing off mirrors to try to get that thing out of visual sight from aircraft, as well as people walking or driving around. I mean, how good or how well can we camouflage gardens will probably be a new skill set that emerges out of that too.
Yeah, but camouflage anything. How do you camouflage your herd of cattle? How do you camouflage your rooster crowing in the morning? There's some that you just are not going to be able to do. And it leaves us all vulnerable at that point too. You know, you got your gardens, you got your rabbits, chickens, cows, pigs, whatever it would be, and they have no idea what's going on. The cow's not going, hey, great idea. You know what? There's people coming. I'm going to go hide behind a tree. They're just doing whatever they do. And sorry, dogs. But
see, you need those for intruder alert.
Yes, but you know, there's some that's just not going to be possible. So you are going to have to protect what you have by any means necessary. I mean, there's only so much you can do to prevent prying eyes from seeing.
So you're telling me then straight that camo paint on a cow is still not going to disguise it.
Yeah, I'm betting that's not going to work too well. Yeah, and a Kevlar helmet on a cow ain't going to do it either.
Yeah, because that's very, very much a real threat of animals being stolen. Happens all the time anyway in impoverished nations.
Yeah, happens here now.
Yeah.
There's still cattle rustlers. You know, I mean, trust me, that's going to be a huge thing. I mean, imagine you're this little merry band of marauders running around, you know, 10, 15 people, and you see a cow. You stop, you go, we're staying here the night and until this evening, and we're going to go, you know, think cow tipping is something that college students do. You know, hey, we can go out there in the middle of the night, cow's throat, nobody hears us, we butcher up as much as we can. You know, there's 10 of us, we can carry a bunch of meat, we're out of here. The farmer goes out in the morning and there's, you know, cow carcass out there somewhere.
You know, the coyotes coming in to nibble what they can get as well. And then the turkey vultures all feasting out there too.
Right, which now creates another problem for the rest of your livestock.
Yeah, right. Because I just recently bought a live weight lamb from the Amish, and he was saying, the guy I bought it from was saying that 3 of their lambs had been taken by a coyote over the last, you know, week and a half, because they're coming back in the hills here. They're on a migratory pattern too, and you can hear them up in the hills here in certain nights, especially when the sirens come by. For some reason, there were a couple sirens not too long ago, but when the sirens came by, all the coyotes started howling in the hills too. So natural predators, you know, in your gardens are how, you know, the Japanese beetle cycle, the worm cycle, the butterfly caterpillar cycle. I mean, organic's great. And again, you get this whole romantic idea of it's an organic farm, dude. But in reality, organic farm, you're going to get super minimal yield, nibbled to bits, and hopefully you can use a pair of scissors and cut around the good part of the leaf that's left after nature finishes with it. Because if you want to eat it, they want to eat it.
Yeah, and that's just something that we are all going to have to deal with. You know, it's not going to be easy. And like I said, too many people romanticize SHTF as going back to, you know, how Little House on the Prairie. Okay, no, you know, Little House on the Prairie was a TV show. You know, Bonanza was a TV show. That's not how the real life worked. Go back and look at how people lived in the Appalachians in the 1700s, in the 1800s, whatever it would be. That's what you're looking at. You know, you're not going to be able to pick up that iPhone and go, how do I skin a squirrel? You know, there's not at your fingertips instructions on how to do something. You know, you need to know how to do all that stuff ahead of time. And that's the one thing that I find most people are completely lacking in. You know, that prepping is, gee, I've got a bunch of canned goods, I'm all good. Or gee, I've got a couple of rifles, I'm all good. Or, you know, water is always my favorite one. Gee, I've got 50 gallons of water. You know, I've got 3 55-gallon drums full of water. Congratulations, you've got about a month's worth of water. Prepping is survival skills. And I'm not talking bushcrafting or anything like that. I'm talking the basics. Do you know how to fish? You know, do you know how to clean a fish? You know, will you touch the worm? Any of that sort of stuff. Those are very basic skills that a lot of people don't have. And they're like, but, you know, what do I need? I've got, you know, cans of tuna fish upstairs. I've got all the fish I need. Like I say, great. You got a year's worth of food. What happens on day 366? You know, it's again, going back to what I said at the beginning, when World War II ended, life didn't go back to normal on Monday morning. Everybody goes, oh, okay, stores are open again, back to selling things, back to work I go. No, the entire continent was a disaster, and it took decades to rebuild it. How did you survive those decades? A lot of people didn't.
Ever take a look at the pictures of Dresden, 1946?
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome. And I had a quick question for you here. TVA and blackouts, because you were talking about blackouts already here happening in the United States, planned rolling blackouts through the winter.
Yep.
So the Tennessee Valley Authority, a lot of it's hydro and a lot of it's nuclear.
Right.
So, what's the comparison there between hydro, nuclear, and coal or natural gas, wind, solar? Do you think that being here in East Tennessee with the TVA running on those two different pretty much renewables, that there would be power outages here in Tennessee? And, you could also make the same case for places like Washington, that there's an enormous amount of hydro over there, and different other places, that British Columbia, they're using an enormous amount of hydro, adding new megawatt capacity every year. So what do you think about grid down or rolling blackouts for this part of the country using TVA's resources?
Well, I think we've got the resources, but again, how much of it is going to be diverted somewhere else? Just like when the whole thing in Texas happened last year, and they were buying power from Missouri and North Dakota and everything down there. Okay, let's say we have a complete catastrophic rise in the cost of coal and natural gas and everything like that, to the point it's not affordable. I mean, like Duke Energy telling the folks in North Carolina, expect for significant increases in power or in prices over the winter. Okay, so if their supply goes down, TVA is going to be selling supply to North Carolina, in my example here, and that is going to cause more shortages here and cause our bills to go up. So just because it's all these little regional areas, we're not safe because we're on hydro and nuclear, because it's going to come down real quick going, gee, we're all on coal, we don't have any power, we need to buy power from you guys, and that's going to dwindle the supply here, and the price goes up for everybody, because they're certainly not going to let, say, Washington DC go dark and leave the lights on in Chattanooga. They're going to be like, nope, sorry, we need to send all the power up here, so DC's got power, and now we need rolling blackouts down by you guys, even though it was all generated by TVA.
Yeah, that Texas was a huge eye opener. And I will draw a parallel, because in the UK they said the exact same thing: expect significant rises in power prices. And then during the blackouts and that whole fiasco with grid down in Texas during the winter, significant prices also if you're able to get to the power. And if you've been reading a few articles out there about the price of the UK power increases, somebody was paying about £200 per month for their electricity to heat whatever flat or home, jumped to £1,400 per month.
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine that. You just switch it over into dollars. You're paying $250 a month, and then suddenly you get a bill one month and it's $1,800 for your electric.
Right.
Who's ready for that?
Nobody.
Who's ready for that?
Yeah. And hence why it's so important for people to have some sort of backup power system. I mean, to heat their home, especially, and to run the bare bones basic necessities. Do you have a backup heat source somehow? A wood stove, a fireplace, a propane heater, a little buddy, whatever it would be, to stay warm. It ain't going to be walking around in shorts in your house come December, but at least it's not going to be running around your house in a parka. And again, same thing on the power. To keep your refrigerator, to keep your freezers going. I mean, the bare bones necessities to keep your food fresh. You're not worried about powering up the internet or whether or not you can watch Netflix. You're worried about, okay, I've got meat in the freezer that I need to keep frozen. How can I keep that freezer running? That's the priority.
Well, if it's in the winter, you could take it outside, because if you leave it in your freezer, it's going to keep warming up. But then you need to worry about the predators coming in to smell that meat and want to come in and nibble it too. So hopefully you have some sort of plastic lockable box. But as well as I do, predators can get through pretty much anything if it's not made out of solid steel and double locked. I mean, Animals are ingenious when they're hungry and they're sniffing food.
Yeah.
They're tough. Their jaws are tough, and they rip through things that you would consider impenetrable, but they're just nibbling through it like we're going through a Cheeto puff or something, right through that.
And then, the area we're in, how often, I mean, we don't have that much winter that's below freezing, so, I mean, 40 degrees is a cold day, in the wintertime here. Okay. That's not good enough to keep my meat fresh. That's a refrigerator. That's not a freezer.
And it comes back, we were driving around not too long ago and saw an old root cellar carved into the side of a hill, had a concrete dome on it, had been disused, but still, with a little TLC, could have brought that thing back up to running again. And, things, who has a root cellar on their property? Yeah,
I built one.
I knew.
I built one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and the drainage issues with that as well. Now, okay, I'll just slap a hole in the ground and put stuff in there. Yeah, okay. Wait until the moisture creeps in on the sides there. Huh?
Yeah. I mean, that's it. You got to know what you're doing and everything like that. But as we said at the top, it's coming. It's closer today than it was yesterday. And how is everybody going to do this? What are we going to do to community-wise to be able to survive whatever chaos is thrust upon us? Because we don't know. Is it economic? Is it war? Is it, wildfires? Is it drought? I mean, we don't know which one it is. You can plan for all of them and we'll get hit with an asteroid. I mean, you try to prep for everything, but there is no, again, one size fits all the prepping.
Yeah, and if it's an asteroid the size that wiped out the dinosaurs, at least I can run to the store and buy more toilet paper. All right, we've been going for about an hour, and I hope everybody got a little bit of info out of our conversation that can help you, because I'm learning and absorbing as well. Well, Ken was giving me a couple of new ideas here to think about moving forward in the days. So if you have any comments, please leave them in the description box below on how we can compare information. You got to keep your comms up. Does anybody have ham radios? I mean, I just got a new 10,000 watt CB antenna that I bought at a truck stop, no less, going down I-75. Usually the kits come a little tiny. I went over there and I said, I want a big one that receives 12, 15, 16 miles out. So he set me up with one. I mean, you just need to ask. All that stuff's there at the truck stops. I mean, the guys on the road are communicating minutely. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes, but you're going to have to be able to get some information flow. And then, what if I was going to want to get a hold of Ken? We don't have internet. How am I going to? Telephones aren't working. Cell tones are down. Hey, what channel are you on?
There you go. And I'm on the CB too. So all set there. Well, thank you for spending a little bit of time with me, David. I greatly appreciate it. And, I'm hoping that everybody who watches my channel goes and checks out David here on Adapt 2030. Definitely. Well, God knows you can find you all over the internet because there's enough information there to find. Guys, we need to be a community as a whole. And the more that we all work together, the greater we can share ideas. And that just makes us all better preppers, better people. We can never stop learning. Our brain is not concrete, it's sponge. So, the more we talk to each other, the better prepared we all get to be. So thank you again, David.
Yeah, thank you. Now, on your side as well, you go to prepper.com, you got Pinball Preparedness there, and you got the Pinball Preparedness YouTube channel up, sort of for now. How else can people find info or contact you or take a look at what information that's flowing through your channels as well?
It's basically the two on YouTube, Pinball Preparedness and Pinball Prepping. And then I've got the Rumble channel that's Pinball Preparedness as a, when there's stuff that I can't talk about, that's where the stuff goes there. But I always give everybody a hint on the YouTube if there's something critical to go over to Rumble.
Yeah, we'll show you the white fluffy baby kitty right now, but go see the good info over on Rumble because there's nothing left.
Yep, that's it.
All right, anyway. Thanks so much for joining us. And Ken, thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, y'all.